Hello and welcome to Keep Middlesex Moving, Mobility Matters podcast. I'm Christina Fowler and I'm joined today by my fellow host, Arlene Holt.
Hi, Christina. Great to be here.
Hi, Arlene. So with us today is Stephen Dunn. Thank you for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So for our friends listening, Stephen Dunn has received some local recognition as the biking fireman. Before we get into that, Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became passionate about bicycle and pedestrian safety?
Let's see. I'm a firefighter. I'm an EMT. I live in Union County, New Jersey. I guess I first started with being interested in bicycle and pedestrian safety through my work. I see a lot of people hit on the roads, and seen a lot of people die on the roads, and it affects you, and you kind of bury it for a while, and then eventually it comes back, and you realize it's still bothering you. So I figured, let me try and do something about it. So that's how I've gotten involved with the pedestrian safety aspect of it.
3 years ago, you decided to commit to biking to work every day. What prompted you to do that?
It's something I wanted to do for a long time. It's been about a decade 10 years since I started biking kind of intermittently. I would bike on nice days when I knew where I was going exactly for work. Because sometimes I have to go to different firehouses. So if I knew I was going to one place and it was simple, I would, and it was nice weather, I would take the bike. Um, I'm not sure exactly why I decided at that moment, but it was 2020 was my New Year's resolution, and it was January. So I just say, you know what? Let me stop making excuses. Let me just go. Let me go all in on this. Let me commit to doing it every day. And then a couple things kind of spoke to me, I guess, as to why I should stop doing it. There's no parking at any of the firehouses where I work. There's some parking, but as a newer guy, you don't really get preference in the parking lot. So you park on the street. And my car got hit while I was parked on the street by a taxi driver who was was texting.
Wow.
So I took it as a sign, like, hey, get rid of this car. And so I fixed the car, I sold it, and I just started riding my bike every day. And I guess that was late 2019, and that was when I kind of made the decision to go for it.
A lot of people would take that as a sign that it's unsafe to bike, but you actually went the other way with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that. I guess, it's all a matter of perspective. It was because I already had the idea in my mind about biking to work. So I had been doing it a little bit here and there. And it's interesting. I felt I was more uncomfortable with people knowing that I rode my bike to work than actually um, riding my bike to work. Because, you stick out, people make comments, people think you're strange. So before I went full time, most people didn't even, some people knew because you saw me, but I would try and get there and hide my bike and not let people really know that I was riding. So yeah, I guess, yeah, if I wasn't already riding my bike, I probably would have taken that as a sign to to go the other way and drive more, but I didn't.
That's really interesting because for a whole segment of the population, bicycling is their only mode of transportation. And there is a stigma of people who are who see, a regular person that can afford a vehicle driving their bike to work instead of their car. And I feel like that's a great way to bring awareness to the fact that a bicycle is a just as good of a mode of transportation as a vehicle.
Yeah, you bring an interesting point. In some of the Facebook groups I'm part of with Rails Trails, that's come up where people they'll flat out say the only people who ride bikes are a certain kind of person. And I don't like that because I serve an underprivileged population in Elizabeth, and I see people as people, not the way some of those comments can be made. So it's upsetting to me personally because I'll just say if people say, oh, they're drunks or whatever, or they have a DUI, that's riding while they're riding the bike. I don't look as a person as a drunk. I've seen their people. So to hear those comments is upsetting, and it's also one of the reasons I guess I'm passionate about it because I think I can help people who really need to ride their bikes and walk. I don't need to. I can drive. I can do whatever. But by choosing not to take the car, I think it's going to help lift up people who suffer the most, bike and pedestrian fatalities.
You mentioned the Rails to Trails. I understand you're a founding member of the Union County Rails to Trails. Could you tell us a little bit
So
about that?
yeah, so it started for me. So there's it's called a Facebook group called Union County Rails to Trails, and it started out in August of 2020. So I wasn't a founding member of that, but I was one of the early members. And I was pretty excited about it when I first found out about it because the rail trail they were proposing would transform my ride to work. I wouldn't have to go on road almost the whole way. And then it's kind of grown from there. One of the things that happened actually, so that was August of 2020, and then September 13th of 2020, a friend of mine was actually killed on her bicycle in Brooklyn. Um, so that was kind of an interesting week for me. As far as social media goes, I've been on, I remember when Facebook hit 1 million users. I was in Connecticut when Zuckerberg started it. So I was one of the first people on it. And for years, I've been like a lurker, right? I just kind of look. I don't post anything. I don't want to be involved.
Same.
It's a powerful tool. I kind of was able to recognize that I am influenced, my mood, you could be happy or angry about things you see just online, right? So when my friend died in September, that was kind of a first step for me where I was like, you know what, let me try and put something out there into this metaverse, as it's now called, for good, because there's a lot of garbage on there. So I poured a lot of energy into the Rails Trails Facebook group for Union County Rails Trails. And then about a year later, it was last December, it became apparent that we needed to become more than just a Facebook group. The Facebook group has power, but we need an organization. So what we did was we formed this called Union County Connects. I know we're on a podcast, so you can't see my shirt, but Union County Connects is the vision of it is to basically promote rail trail development in Union County and active transportation, outdoor and recreation and healthy lifestyles. So it's a concrete way to take the power that was formed in a Facebook group and make it into a more tangible asset to advance our goals.
I love how you bring up social media. It is such a powerful tool. Of late, we actually, I came to know of you through social media, following you on Instagram. Do you find that is your best way to communicate with the public, or how do you find what do you think is the best way to communicate with them?
So it's interesting, and my thoughts on it are still evolving. So I'll give you where I'm at right now. I think social media is a way to reach more people. You get ideas out there. You're kind of able to. I just my thought with social media is I just throw them ideas out there, and whatever sticks. People don't like it, whatever. But also something I've come to think of recently is I'm searching for one person or one group of people, and like it brought me to you guys, right? And you're doing something, and then the cool thing about social media is connected me to people who I never would have otherwise connected with. And they're people I like and people I want to talk to. And that's one of the downsides of social media is that the people, there's a dark side to it, right? You get negative comments, you'll get people saying nasty stuff, but those people won't come to say that to me.
Yes.
Behind a keyboard, right?
Yeah, they're keyboard warriors.
Yeah. And honestly, if some people do come and say something to me, and I really, really appreciate that when I get negative feedback in person, man, there's nothing better than that because it's a real conversation, and I can understand it better, and then you can both grow from it. But I get more through the social media and through Union County Connects. People have kind of come out of the woodwork that I never would have otherwise met, and we share interests and we share energy and ideas and excitement, and there's sometimes where I think to myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing social media? It's very draining for me. But then, something like this happens. Yesterday, I had a golf event, and I met another really great person from Groundwork Elizabeth, a bunch of great people from Groundwork Elizabeth. And I just wouldn't have met them probably if it weren't for the social media. So that kind of, it's like I said, it's a useful and powerful tool, but you need to. I'm still working on it. You need to have discipline with it.
Yeah, discipline is definitely key, and in doses, right? Because the negativity does get a little bit draining, but nonetheless, the awareness is there, right? I mean, everyone is talking about it, and look, we're connected, so that's
It's a cool. Who would have thought this is the world we're in now? It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
So speaking of social media, recently in the summertime, you caused quite a stir with your idea for the Garden State Bikeway. And a lot of people were like, where is this? And other people said, this does not exist. And I think it's a really great idea. So for our listeners, can you talk about this idea of the Garden State Bikeway, which is just, I don't understand how this isn't even a thing yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the Garden State Bikeway. So my idea, and honestly, I'm not even sure it's my idea. Someone must have thought of this before. My idea. So
well, you coined it on social media, so
yeah. So I'll take it. But so I love the Jersey Shore, right? I'm from New Jersey. I love going to the beach, but I really hate, over these past, especially these past few years, I hate having to drive places. If I can take my bike, I want to take my bike. And not only that, I hate paying tolls and I hate paying to go on the beach. I vacation most of my life in South Carolina, and there you don't have to pay for the beaches. So this idea of paying for beaches is stuck in my brain. In New Jersey, we do have beaches you don't have to pay to go on. It's Sandy Hook. So Sandy Hook, you have to pay to get your car there, but if you walk or bike there, you can go on for free. Right. So I looked at the map and everything. I love the East Coast Greenway, and I found out about the Henry Hudson Trail. So the East Coast Greenway, it runs right by my house, and it takes you down through Middlesex County along the Middlesex Greenway, and then it connects, well, not quite fully yet. Hopefully the Middlesex Greenway does eventually connect to Route 35. Yeah. But Route 35 has a bike lane over the bridge. It's not a great bike lane. It's basically a shoulder with paint. It could be made better.
Don't even bring that up. That's a whole different subject there.
Yeah. No, so sorry. Yeah. But it's there. It got me to go there because I saw a bike painted on the shoulder. But it was good. So it has a bike lane. And then from the south side of Route 35 to the base of the Henry Hudson Trail, I forget the exact number, but I want to say maybe it's 6 miles to Keyport from there. So yeah, but once you get to Keyport, you're on the Henry Hudson Trail and you're off road the whole way to the Sandy Hook. So I live in Kenilworth, and that's a 41-mile ride, which, especially now with the advent of e-bikes, anyone can do 41 miles with an e-bike. I love e-bikes for that. It brings it up to so many more people. But even if you're someone who likes to ride 40 miles, that's not a bad ride on a regular bike. And then the other thing for me, in my mind, Middlesex County, right? Middlesex County bears the brunt of shore traffic. You have everyone driving down the parkway going to the shore, but no one's stopping in Middlesex County and spending any money and contributing to the local economy. If you have a bikeway going through Middlesex County, it's just going to be an explosion of ecotourism and economic benefits for the region, because if you're riding your bike, you're stopping for a coffee, you're stopping for a pizza, maybe going for a shopping somewhere. To me, the idea, like you said, why isn't this already done? Like someone had to think of this already. But it comes back to where, sorry to keep going on and on, I get excited about it, but it's just in our brains that you got to take your car everywhere. So that's my main battle with everything I'm doing, is kind of shifting the idea that the car is the only way to get around this area. So don't take the parkway, take the bikeway. That's what I tell people.
That's a good tagline.
And that's really one of the things that I enjoy about what you are doing. For many advocates, we talk about bicycling as a mode of transportation, but you are actually demonstrating that not every trip requires us to get behind the wheel of a car. And for anybody that follows you on Instagram, you've taken your bike to Home Depot and to Target, and you show that, yeah, you can get there by car. Why do you feel that is so important?
I think that's what I realized. It wasn't easy for me, because your whole life you just get in the car and you go. It's just kind of, it's what you do. Like I didn't even think about riding my bike to work until someone else kind of introduced the idea to me. And then once you get the idea introduced to you, it becomes, how do you actually do it? And there's challenges in doing it. What do you do when it rains? What do you do if you got to carry something? What do you do, if it's farther or you have a flat tire? So when you start thinking about all those challenges at once, it becomes easier to just go back to what you know in the car. So what I did was I've been able to kind of shift my thinking about it. I enjoy the challenge. Like, it's not a bad thing to be challenged about it. And so once I'm able to figure out, for example, how to get to Home Depot and pick up whatever I need, now that's one less thought process when I'm going. So if I don't have to think about going to Home Depot to get something, I can just go without thinking. If I'm able to share that with other people, it takes one of those obstacles out of it to get people to try and bike places. And one of the things I'm careful about too is I'm trying not to portray that you have to bike everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
cars are still useful tools as well. I just want to. It should be an easier option. It's a very hard option. Like I put a lot of effort into trying to bike places, and still there's barriers. You know, so I'm just trying to take away the mental barriers. Is I guess my what I'm trying to do with my social media.
Right. Well, the barriers aside from just the routes, I mean, safety is obviously a huge concern too. Last week, you were at the State House talking about Vision Zero and the Vision Zero policy. Clearly, it's something that needs to be done, not just statewide, but countrywide. So how did you get involved in being at the State House last week?
Oh man. So I guess it's interesting because it all started, I think, for me with this Rails Trails Facebook group, and that's how I got involved with trail advocacy. And then, like I said, I've worked for the fire department of Elizabeth for 10 years. I've been an EMT for 15 years. So like I said, I've seen a lot of this stuff, and it has an effect on you. So through the Rails Trails advocacy, that's how a lot of the people who are involved with trail advocacy are also involved in Vision Zero, because they kind of go hand in hand. Like, if you want to achieve Vision Zero, you have to give pedestrians and cyclists a place away from traffic a little bit, but also you need safe streets as well. So I got involved with the Vision Zero Alliance, and I've been going to the meetings. I met the colleague whose son was killed in a car crash a while ago, and for me it was almost like it's not that I wanted to do something, it's that I had to do something.
Right.
Because when you're a first responder, you're kind of there for this short portion of it, and it affects you. And then to be able to connect that to people like Nikali, who have to deal with the long-term effects of it in a different, more personal way than I do, it was powerful. I think I'd just bring a little bit different voice to the Vision Zero movement, because a lot of it, unfortunately, are families, right, that have personal stories of loss, very personal stories of loss, which fortunately, I don't have now, but I'm very worried about it, obviously, because it is, in my testimony, one of the things I said was it's the most likely way for my children to die. Like I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, and if you look at the statistics, the number one way for teenagers to die is a car crash, and just not acceptable. So that's kind of how I got involved. I feel like I had to do something. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but you got to try. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
I feel like right now we're at this point where everybody is just fed up. And if we don't strike now, then when are we going to? I read your statement. You posted it to your blog, and we'll have a link to your blog at the bottom of this episode. And it was so moving, because you really do bring a unique viewpoint to it. Not only are you a family man, but you also serve the community. And the things that you see as a first responder, how can they not change you, right? So when I first learned about you, I immediately thought, of course he's, advocating for safer streets for all. He's a fireman. He's a firefighter. Like there's something special about people who do the work that you do. And you cannot just kind of take off your helmet at the end of the day and leave all those worries behind. It kind of, it shapes us. The work that we do at KMM is nothing compared to what you do. But when you know somebody and you've spoken to somebody who has been impacted by a fatality that could have been prevented, that changes you, that affects you. So personally, I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, I really appreciate that. And thank you for reading the statement. I actually had to stop myself from crying when you said that. I don't know why, but it's interesting. As you were speaking, one of the first things I thought of was, and if any first responders are listening to us, I hope you listen to this. As a first responder, you bury it. You bury it for a while. I did that for years, and it comes back to you eventually at some point. So if you are a first responder listening to this, I hope you kind of join me in this, because we have a lot of problems in our community. from traffic fatalities, because it doesn't end with the call, and it carries with you. So there's something, it's been therapeutic for me almost to try to do something.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
I guess sometimes I tell myself, hey, it doesn't even matter, nothing matters, but you got to try. And I think if there's more people who join us in this, we can get more
Mhm.
done.
Well,
Yeah.
quick question. You had mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that you received comments from people in the beginning about biking to work. How do people see you now? Are they, still making fun of you, or have you been able to convert some people to your side and take some rides with you?
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag, right? You know, I think most people, even if they make comments, I don't think it's firehouse culture is interesting anyway. But we pick on each other, you know, just for being it's fine. So most people, even if they do make negative comments, it's like after they make a joke at me, they'll ask me, "Oh, well, how did you do this? What about this? What about that?" So people are interested, and there are a couple people I know, like on my fire department, who have ridden their bike every once in a while, you know. So there's definitely interest. Like even negative comments, I don't even take them as negative, to be honest. It's almost just like a reaction to something different.
Sure.
It's not towards me. It's not. It's just about, oh, that's different. Some people do take it as like an indictment of their lifestyle. You know, try. You know, you live 3 miles from the firehouse and you drive a huge pickup truck there. So and here I am riding my bike from farther away. So I think some people do take it personally, but if they do say something to me, I know it's not about me. It's
Mhm.
just about what they're thinking about. But yeah, overall, there's been a shift, and now I tried to hide it for a while, but now, as you see, I'm out there all the time with it, and so I think people are coming around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to let our listeners know as far as how they can help spread awareness? Do you have any upcoming events? I know that you had done a 13-mile walk not too long ago. Do you have any of those planned for the next couple of, although I know we're going into winter, but for next
Yeah.
spring?
Yeah. So next spring, I can tell you, the third Saturday in April, it's Celebrate Trails Day, and we're gonna have Tom Sexton here. He's the Northeast director for the National Rails Trails Conservancy.
Right.
We threw it together kind of last minute last year, but we're going to be walking down the Raleigh Valley Railroad from Kenilworth to Roselle Park, and that's, as Union County Connects an organization, that's our number one priority right now. And you guys can appreciate this. I get a little, not upset, but it burns my fire a little bit. The Middlesex Greenway, I forget the name of the railroad, but it was abandoned in 1992, and now you have the Middlesex Greenway, a beautiful bridge over Route 1, great economy, building up in Metuchen, and it's wonderful. The Raleigh Valley Railroad was also abandoned in 1992, and we got nothing. So it's already owned by the state. It's, to me, I'm just so frustrated that someone hasn't done this already. And another frustrating thing is it crosses Route 22 in Union, right where a lot of pedestrians die every year. So maybe you saw my one video. Someone died just a few months ago,
Yeah.
you know, right down the road from there. So why there isn't a bridge there already, I don't know. So I'm pouring a lot of my energy and influence that I can into convincing people, hey, let's build this greenway, and let's build a bridge over 22, and not only give us more mobility options, but it'll reduce pedestrian fatalities in a notoriously deadly place for
Right.
pedestrians. Yeah, so the third Saturday in April, that's what I can give you for that. And then, otherwise, if you're listening to this, just reach out to me. I'm the Biking Fireman on Instagram, Facebook. The Biking Fireman at gmail.com is my email. And I love hearing from people and sharing ideas. I'm an ideas person, so if you want to talk ideas, I love it. And then we can talk about how to make things happen.
Yeah, we unfortunately we have to wrap it up, but we could be here with you for hours just
Hours.
talking about this stuff.
We'll link everything to our to the podcast so that anyone that's listening, or they can share it and they can follow and hopefully join our cause.
I just want to leave everybody with one of Steve's quotes. In one of your posts, you wrote, "If you engineer for cars, you get cars. If you design for people, you get people." And that's so true. And hopefully
Amen.
together, yeah, hopefully together we can really, see the at least the spark of a Garden State Bikeway or the trails being connected in Union County. We need more people like you, Steve, that can just get those ideas out there and maybe spark interest in legislators that also have a passion for this in some way, and they just kind of felt that nobody else cared about it until now. So the more voices we can get, I think we can really change our culture here in New Jersey and make it a better, safer place for everybody.
And if you're listening to this podcast, I know you can make a difference because you took the time to listen to this podcast, right? So that's one of the things. Like you think about engineers and traffic engineers and government officials, you think, they got it covered. But I can tell you, we need more people to come out with ideas and come out with design and just try to do something. It's not all covered. Trust me. There needs to be more help and more involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
we are
much,
so
Stephen.
thrilled to have spoken with you. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to sit down with us and talk with us.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority and the Federal Highway Administration.